Welcome to Larkspur Conservation at Taylor Hollow, Tennessee's first nature preserve for natural burial. Our hope is that this virtual tour provides some clarity and information that will be helpful to you and your family. Larkspur Conservation is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to preserve and restore land across Tennessee through a revival of natural burial practices that heal the earth and offer sanctuary. Larkspur Conservation at Taylor Hollow is set across 112 acres along the Highland Rim in Sumner County, Tennessee. The preserve is just under an hour from downtown Nashville. Its rolling hills, ravines, and meadows host a unique biodiversity. Adjacent to Larkspur rests Taylor Hollow State Natural Area, where many threatened and endangered species thrive. This area is one of the most significant conservation areas in the state of Tennessee, and Larkspur is proud to help protect it. So how do we protect land? And what is natural burial? Natural burial is a historic method used to care for our bodies when we die. It's safe for the environment and the workers that care for our bodies when we die because it eliminates the use of embalming chemicals, plastic and metal caskets, and concrete vaults. Instead, handmade wooden and willow caskets or beautiful fabric shrouds are used to cover the body before burial. From dust we are born, and to dust we shall return. Natural burial is how generations of folks were buried prior to the Civil War and Industrial Revolution. At Larkspur, when we pair natural burial with land conservation, we like to call it conservation burial, natural burial that goes a step further. With conservation burial, we use a number of methods to ensure that burials do not harm the surrounding ecosystems, but actually facilitate growth and restoration. A conservation easement is used to prevent any activity that would adversely affect the land, like clear cutting, subdivision, and mining. Think of it as a deed restriction that runs with ownership of the property, forever protecting the land. Larkspur Conservation at Taylor Hollow is protected by the Nature Conservancy, and it's not just a cemetery. It's a sanctuary where native plants and animals can flourish, visitors can mindfully be in nature, students can learn, and so much more. The preserve can be visited daily from daylight to dark and is open to the whole community as a public green space. At Larkspur, no two burials are alike, but the basic steps are generally similar. On the day of the burial, everyone gathers at the trailhead and makes a memorial hike together up into the preserve to the gravesite. Those attending have the opportunity to gather and look into the grave that has been mindfully decorated with flowers and native vegetation and are invited to touch the casket or the shrouded body. At a Larkspur burial, family and friends have whatever ceremony is meaningful to them. Most share in stories, prayer, and reflection. Others bring along a religious leader or just simply have a picnic following. When everyone is ready, those who wish to participate will join in lowering the body into the earth. Then everyone, beginning with the family, is invited to ceremonially place a handful or shovelful of earth into the grave. When all have had the opportunity, the grave is actively filled by those attending. After all the soil has been returned to the grave, a mound is formed over the top, which is then carefully covered with pine straw to stabilize the seed bank, and while any extra cut flowers that may have been brought are scattered above. Some families even return a second time for a seasonal planting of a native tree, plants, or wildflowers on the grave. Again, each burial is unique, and time is given to each family to create their own experience and ceremony. Other than with plants that naturally grow at Larkspur, graves are marked in multiple ways. First, a small aluminum marker stamped with the deceased name, birth year, and death year is placed in the center of the grave so it can be physically identified. Secondly, GPS coordinates are collected and made publicly available on the Larkspur website for visitors to be able to use when they arrive at the preserve. By searching a person's name, the coordinates are opened into their smartphone map and the gravesite location is displayed. Finally, a native stone may be sourced and engraved through Larkspur and purchased by the family. You know, one of the most common questions we get is, how does the body get to Larkspur? What are the steps? It's quite simple. When someone dies that wishes to be buried naturally, the family will generally contact a funeral home to provide some basic services, such as transportation to the funeral home from the hospital or home or wherever the death has occurred. Remember, there's no embalming performed. Bathing, cleansing, dressing is provided by the funeral director, and simple refrigeration and care are utilized until the time of the burial. Lastly, on the day of burial, transportation is provided from the funeral home to Larkspur for the ceremony. Larkspur works with any funeral director, and it even has an online list of funeral homes that have had a burial with us or have completed training to better understand our practices. So the next question is, what about selecting a gravesite? Well, exact gravesite selection occurs at or near the time of death by the family or friends. The selection of a gravesite can be a healing process for the family. Most of the time, people choose based on a feeling they get when standing in tall grasses among wildflowers and butterflies, or in a woodland setting full of ferns, trees, and a shady canopy. When a gravesite is selected, an additional space can be reserved for a future burial of a spouse or a child. The truth is, the more we talk about death and what our wishes are, the less scary it gets. When we don't talk about it, we don't learn, and we're easily misinformed. One common myth is that the body has to be embalmed or buried within 24 hours, and this just isn't true. You can use refrigeration or dry ice to keep the body cool and thereby delay the burial, allowing time for planning or until family travels in. Many people following natural burial methods for their loved ones have delayed the funeral process for up to a week or more, using refrigeration and dry ice as a tool to delay the natural breakdown of the body. Another myth is that animals will disturb the grave sites. Not so with natural burial, where we bury the body at a responsible depth, creating a natural barrier between the grave and the surface. And as for myth number 3, concerning water quality, the soil and rock beneath us act as a natural filter, and water quality is not harmed. Our bodies are made up of natural elements, and when they are buried naturally without chemicals, plastics, metals, and concrete, they are reabsorbed into the soil without harming the environment. What's so powerful about Larkspur is each burial becomes a gift to the land, to the community, and to the family it serves. I appreciate you for allowing me to speak candidly about natural burial and the work Larkspur does to help families during a difficult time. If I could give you one closing tip, it would be to have the conversation with your family and friends. Don't wait to create a plan or express your wishes. I hope I've been able to provide some healthy information. I would encourage you to visit our website for a thorough detailing of Larkspur and our conservation burial pricing and options. There you will also find resources such as a gallery of images, frequently asked questions, family testimonials, and the list of funeral homes I mentioned before. Although video is far superior than a photo, there's nothing better than the real thing. So please visit the preserve for a hike or schedule a personalized planning session with Larkspur to learn more and to get organized. I will leave you with a few closing clips, followed by our contact information. Please reach out with any questions or concerns your family may have. Larkspur staff and volunteers will be honored to help you in any way. As a nonprofit, Larkspur manages its resources to protect and continue to save more land in the future. Your donation and continued support will allow us to continue our work and care for generations to come.